There is a question that has haunted philosophers for centuries. What can you truly control? Not what you wish you could control, not what others tell you to pursue, but what is genuinely, completely, and entirely within your power. The answer may surprise you. Think about your day, the traffic that made you late, the coworker who dismissed your idea, the email that never came, the plan that quietly fell apart. How much of your mental energy was spent on things entirely outside your reach? Over 2,000 years ago, a man named Epictetus offered an answer. He was a Greek Stoic philosopher, born into slavery in the Roman Empire. He had nothing, he owned nothing, and yet he possessed something most free men never found throughout their entire lives. His master once broke his leg, deliberately, as a demonstration of power. Epictetus is said to have warned him calmly that the leg would break, and when it did, he said simply, "I told you so." No rage, no despair, just absolute clarity. From the very first line of his teachings, Epictetus draws a sharp and defining line. There are things within our control, he says, and there are things entirely outside our control. This single distinction, he believed, is the true beginning of all wisdom and all freedom. We try to control how people see us. We try to manage the weather, the economy, the unfolding news cycle. We try to secure outcomes in our relationships, our careers, our health, and every single time those things slip from our grasp, we suffer. This is not a small observation. This is the root of most human suffering. We are not suffering simply because life is difficult. We are suffering because we are clinging to things that were never truly ours to hold in the very first place. The Enchiridion, Epictetus's handbook, opens with these words. Some things are in our control and others not. In our control are opinion, pursuit, desire, and our own actions. Outside our control are body, property, reputation, and whatever are not our own actions. Read those words slowly. Let them settle. In our control, our opinions, our desires, our deepest choices. Outside our control, our bodies, what others think of us, what life hands us. This is not resignation. This is the most radical form of clarity you can reach. Your judgment, your intention, your response to what happens, these are yours, completely and entirely yours. No one can reach inside your mind and force you to believe or want something without your consent. That space, that inner space, is your true domain. Your reputation is not yours. Others form it in their own minds, beyond your reach. Your body is not fully yours. It ages, it falls ill, it changes without ever asking permission. Even your plans are not yours. Life itself decides what becomes of them. Epictetus divides all of existence into two clean and honest categories. The things that belong to us, our inner world, and the things that do not, everything outside. Most of us spend our entire lives blurring this line, and that blurring is the source of our pain. Think of all the things you have worried about this year. How many of them were external, results you could not guarantee, people you could not change, events you had no power to prevent, and how much of your peace did those worries quietly consume? Epictetus does not say stop caring. He says, care correctly. Direct your attention toward what truly responds to you. Direct your energy toward what you can actually shape and influence. Everything else, release it. Not with defeat, but with a kind of profound and hard-won wisdom. When you stop trying to control what cannot be controlled, something remarkable and quiet begins to happen. The weight lifts. Not because your circumstances have changed, but because you have stopped fighting a war you were never meant to win. That is what real freedom feels like. The one thing you will always have in any circumstance, in any suffering, in any storm, is the power of your own response. You can choose how to meet this moment. You can choose what meaning to draw from it. That choice is real. It belongs to you. Epictetus described the mind as something like an inner citadel, a fortress that the world cannot breach unless you open its gates yourself. Your opinions, your values, your deepest way of seeing, these are built inside walls that no external force can ever tear completely down. This is not a philosophy you understand once and then automatically possess forever. It is a practice, a daily discipline of asking one simple question: is this within my control? If yes, engage completely. If no, release it. Ask that question enough times and your life begins to shift. There is a particular kind of peace that lives quietly on the other side of this realization. It is not the peace of having everything you want. It is the peace of no longer needing the entire world to cooperate in order for you to feel whole and complete. Epictetus built an entire life on this one foundational insight. A slave who became one of the most influential thinkers in all of recorded history. Not because he escaped his chains, but because he understood something far deeper, that a mind which chooses freely is never truly enslaved. Think about the last time something didn't go your way, a canceled plan, a sharp word from someone you trusted. Your first instinct was probably to push back, to fix it, to make it different somehow. But Epictetus would ask you gently, was any of that truly yours to change? Your body ages. It gets tired, it gets sick. No matter how carefully you tend to it, it will one day stop. Epictetus knew this deeply. He walked with a limp his entire life, the result of a master's deliberate cruelty, yet he never let the body define the soul. What others think of you, that is not yours to control. You can be kind, honest, and generous and still be misunderstood. You can explain yourself with perfect clarity and still be judged unfairly. Their opinion lives inside them, not inside you. It was never yours to begin with. The weather does not ask your permission. The economy rises and falls without consulting you. Events arrive without warning and leave the same way. This is not cruelty, it is simply the indifferent nature of things. Epictetus called accepting this truth the very beginning of wisdom. But here is where everything shifts. You cannot control what happens to you, but you can always choose how you respond. That brief pause between the event and your reaction, that small, quiet space, is where your real power lies. Protect it. It is yours completely. Your judgments are yours. The meaning you assign to events belongs entirely to you. When something happens, the story you tell yourself about it, that interpretation, is your domain alone. Change the story, and you change your experience of it. This is not denial. This is the deepest freedom. Your desires can be trained. Your aversions can be examined and reshaped. When you want something too desperately, you hand it enormous power over you. When you fear something too greatly, you surrender to it the same power. Epictetus taught that the wise person desires only what remains within their reach. Detachment is not coldness. It is clarity. To hold things lightly, your plans, your expectations, even your closest relationships, is not to love them less. It is to love them without chains. It is to appreciate fully what is here, knowing that nothing here stays forever. Epictetus was born a slave in ancient Rome. He had no rights, no property, no freedom of movement whatsoever. His owner once broke his leg deliberately, just to demonstrate his own power. And yet from those brutal conditions emerged one of the most liberated minds in the history of human thought. When his leg was being broken, he reportedly said with calm, "You will break it." When it snapped, he simply said, "Did I not tell you?" There was no rage, no despair. Only the quiet certainty of someone who had already decided, long before, exactly what belonged to him. True freedom is not what most people spend their lives chasing. It is not wealth, or status, or the absence of difficulty. True freedom is the ability to remain undisturbed within yourself, no matter what storms arrive outside. And that kind of freedom cannot be taken from you by anyone. Each morning, the Stoics would pause before the day began. They would consider what difficulties might arrive and remind themselves clearly of what remained in their power to face. Not to brace anxiously for the worst, but to remember the stable ground they already stood on. Equanimity does not mean feeling nothing. It means your center holds even when the surface churns. You can be sad, you can be disappointed, and even angry. What matters is that beneath those feelings there is something steady, something that cannot be swept away by the waves it witnesses. Imagine standing at the edge of a slow river. Leaves drift past on the current, some beautiful, some broken, some already gone before you notice them. You do not leap in to catch everyone. You watch, you appreciate, and you let the river carry what it carries. Anger almost always begins the same way. You expected one thing, and something different arrived. The anger is not truly about the event itself. It is about the gap between what you silently demanded and what reality actually offered. Release the demand and watch the anger dissolve quietly on its own. No one can truly harm you without your participation. That sounds difficult to believe, but consider carefully. People can insult you, yet you choose whether that insult actually lands. People can take things from you, but they cannot take who you are. Your inner life remains yours if you protect it. Adversity is not a punishment. It is a curriculum. Every difficult situation asks you the very same question: will you stay grounded or will you scatter? The difficulty itself does not define you. Your response to it does. This is what Epictetus meant when he spoke of the path of virtue. Even in love, the dichotomy of control applies. You can give someone your full attention, your care, your honest presence, but you cannot control how they feel, what they choose, or how long they remain. To love freely is to love without grasping at the outcome. That is love in its purest form. You can want things. Wanting is not the problem. The problem is holding your wants so tightly that when they slip, and some always will, you slip with them entirely. Hold what you want with an open hand. Let things come. Let things go. Stay rooted in yourself. Everything we have explored leads here to this pivot, away from the noise outside, toward something quieter, something older. The turn inward is not a retreat from life. It is a return to the only place where life can actually be fully lived, within you, right now, in this very moment. Consider for a moment everything you have ever worried about. Most of those things never came to pass, and the ones that did, you survived them. Your worry changed nothing. Your resistance changed nothing. Only your response ever truly mattered. Epictetus knew poverty. He knew enslavement. He knew physical pain that most of us will never experience. And yet, he was perhaps the freest man of his entire age, not because his circumstances changed, but because no master could ever reach inside his mind. The rain will fall when it chooses to fall. Traffic will slow when the world decides to slow. Other people will speak and act according to their own natures. None of this was ever yours to command, and accepting that, truly accepting it, is where peace begins. There is a difference between giving up and letting go. Giving up is defeat. Letting go is wisdom. When you release your grip on the things you were never meant to hold, your hands become free, free to hold the things that actually belong to you. Think of the last time you were truly angry, truly frustrated. What were you fighting against? Most likely, something outside yourself. Something that was never in your control to begin with. The anger was real. But that battle was always unwinnable. We love people deeply. And because we love them, we want to protect them, to shape their choices, to keep them safe from harm. But love does not grant us control. We can offer our presence, our support, our honesty. What they do with that is theirs alone to decide. Uncertainty is not your enemy. It is simply the nature of a world that does not belong to you. The future has never been promised to anyone. Epictetus would say, stop demanding guarantees from a universe that never offered them. Begin instead to trust your own inner compass. Your mind is the last territory. No one can enter without your permission. No event, no person, no failure can take root inside you unless you invite it in. The Stoics called this the inner citadel, a place of absolute refuge, a fortress that exists entirely within you. Every morning is a small practice. When you wake, before the noise of the day arrives, there is a brief and sacred moment. A moment where you can choose how to meet the day, choose what matters, choose who you want to be before the world asks anything of you. Suffering, Epictetus taught, does not come from events themselves. It comes from what we believe those events mean. Lose a job and tell yourself your life is ruined and you will suffer greatly. Lose a job and see it as an opening, and something shifts entirely. Acceptance is not passive. It is one of the most active and courageous things a human being can do. To look at what is, not what you wish it were, not what it used to be, and say, this is real, and I will work with what is real. At the end of a life, what do people wish they had worried less about? Almost always, it is the small things, the opinions of others, the outcomes they tried so hard to control, the futures they tried to predict, the the peace they kept postponing until conditions were perfect. Between every event and your reaction to it, there is a space. It may be only a fraction of a second, but in that space lives your freedom. In that space, you are not a victim of circumstance. In that space, you are still the one who chooses. Philosophy was never meant to stay in books. Epictetus did not teach theory. He taught practice. He taught how to walk into a difficult room and remain yourself, how to face a loss and not be destroyed by it, how to live, moment by moment, with intention and grace. What would your days look like if you stopped fighting the weather? Stopped arguing with traffic? Stopped demanding that other people be different, not because none of it matters, but because the energy you spend there is energy you take from the things that are genuinely yours to shape. Freedom, real freedom, not the freedom to do whatever you want, but the freedom from being controlled by what you want. Freedom from the craving, the grasping, the constant reaching for things outside yourself. That is the freedom Epictetus spent his entire life pointing toward. The present moment is the only place where your choices actually live. Not in the past, that is done. Not in the future, that has not arrived. Right here, right now, this breath, this moment. This is the only territory that has ever truly been yours. Understanding this changes something. Not overnight, not all at once, but slowly, the way light changes a room as the sun moves across the sky. You begin to hold things a little more loosely, to breathe a little more easily, to feel, perhaps for the first time, genuinely free. You cannot control the length of your life. You cannot control what others say about you when you are gone, but you can control the quality of your attention right now, the depth of your care, the honesty of your words, the steadiness of your character. That is everything. Epictetus left no books. He left no monuments. He left only words spoken to students in a small room in ancient Greece, words that have crossed 2,000 years to reach you, because what he was pointing at has never changed. You control nothing but this, and this is enough.